Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is run number 11 of this season, coming to you today from Okayama. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. Well, Josh, we're kind of rounding off this season here for Formula V Weekend Warriors action with some staple Formula V tracks. We've been to Okayama many times, and although this track is very tight, very twisty, very technical, that back straightaway just gives these drivers enough slipstreaming opportunity to really put on some good racing. So I'm expecting another classic here today. Yeah, I think we're going to see some fantastic racing from the drop of the green through to the fall of the checkered. You know, this track is one that everybody has driven on at some point in their iRacing career. I've talked about this a great many times on many different broadcasts. I've done my pre-test test show when I was just learning how to get all of our wonderful SDK graphics set up way back in, God, I think it was probably late February of 2023. I had just gotten back from the house. I was still in high school at the time, and I was trying to get SDK set up and everything with a MX5 race running here as an official race where I first learned what exactly goes into making an iRacing broadcast possible. Oh, that sweet summer child would not know the kind of antics that he would get up to over the following few years. But now this track, it's one that everybody knows. It's one that everybody loves. And this track was actually a personal note as well for me. This was a track that saw my first ever road course official series win. I don't really run in the officials too much. I don't have a permanent sim rig set up, so whenever I do, I just basically drive on the rig for 5 hours and then frantically have to take it away before I go on the air. But my first ever road series win was in a rookie Formula Ford race at this track. It was on the short layout, so it kind of looks like a sad chicken nugget compared to what the configuration we're racing at here today. But this track, everybody has some formative memories from their iRacing career running around this place, and I think that will play into the racing quite a lot. Everybody knows their way around here quite well. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of side-by-side racing from the drop of the green through to the fall of the checkered. Want to once again thank Lars House for sponsoring this broadcast. I got to say, Fern, that is an absolutely amazing dog. And who knows, maybe Lars, I mean, currently holding on to that pole in Spec 2, bring home the bacon, and that bacon will probably go to Fern for a little snack. A victory snack after this race is said and done, but Lars currently qualified in 9th. The Spec 2 category has been really up in the air throughout this season. Lots of different pole sitters. In fact, going over some of the past couple of races that we have had in the Spec 2 category, Martin Visser has been able to grab 2 straight poles, and both of them were actually P8 starts at Lebanon and Alton Park, respectively. VIRO's Trip Isley starting from the pole in that race, with Russ Telker grabbing the 2 poles right before that. But right now, we've got Alan DeGassis on the overall pole position, not just the Masters pole like he sat on for the past 4 races now. He's currently holding on to that overall pole position. Now, I'm trying to think, which is why you can smell the smoke, whether or not we have had a non-Spec 1 pole sitter thus far this season in Weekend Warriors competition. Certainly here in the Formula Vs, we have not, as all the Spec 1 pole sitters have been your overall pole sitters from this season. And Guido, we'll talk about the fantastic run he's been on as of recent. In the past 5 races, he has started from the pole 4 times. Parvin Ladar at Summit Point was the only driver to break up that chain of dominance. So outside of that, though, everybody from this season of Weekend Warriors action in both the Formula Vs and the other 2 Weekend Warriors series that we have on Sundays with the Formula Fords and the Spec Racing Fords, it's always been Spec 1 racers up at the top. Not seeing that here, though. Masters currently being dominated in this race with Alan DeGassis holding on to that pole, and that's a comfortable margin between himself and Felix Samoas, too, as I think Felix has pulled into pit lane, so Alan DeGassis may be in the catbird seat to buck that trend.
Yeah, absolutely. As I'm realizing my microphone was muted for the first quarter of this broadcast here. Sorry about that out there. You should be able to hear me now. You've been talking to yourself there for about the last 5 minutes there, Ron. But we're back now.
I usually talk to myself.
Yeah, this is true. You're pretty good at carrying things, aren't you? We're looking at Joshua Justice here, though, also having a pretty good streak of luck lately in some of our special events. The turkey shoot the other day, I believe he almost took the win, or maybe he did take the win there, and some other victories and stuff lately as well as some pitfalls too. He's actually had some pretty close calls and stuff in the last little bit too. But I will reiterate again, Lars is our sponsor for today, and his dog Fern there. We'll put up that message one more time just because I was muted the first time, and here I am. I'm back.
Yeah, see, me talking to myself, it just sounds like my time in middle school, albeit this is nowhere near as embarrassing for me as it was for me when I was in middle school, but that's all I care to talk about there. Here's Daniel Salmon heading his way off into turn number 8 right now. The final sector of this lap is very twisty, very technical. You pretty much just got a never-ending assault of turns from 8 through into 9. Coming out of Hobbs, it is called turn number 9 on this track, heading off through Mike Knight corner, and then turn 11 on this track. The last corner, which is the name of the turn. Yes, they call last corner, and they call the first corner. Some of the corner names on Japanese racetracks I think are absolutely fantastic because they're either mathematical equations, very just abrupt turn names, like first corner being named first corner. Here on this track, though, there is something a bit intriguing. We've got the likes of Williams Corner, turn number 2, the Moss S, turn number 3, Atwood Curve of turn number 4, all like English-sounding names. And the reason why that is the case, Okayama kind of bucked the trend of what racetracks used to be and opened up what has now become a bit of a staple in global motorsports of kind of motorsports country clubs, in a sense. Okayama, there are a lot of garages that you can personally rent out. I know for me personally, being from Philadelphia, New Jersey Motorsports Park in Millville, which is on iRacing, they're never going to release that as anything more than a tech track, though, sadly. But you think of NJMP, VIR to a certain extent when they brought back that track in the 2000s. Lots of tracks now have this sort of philosophy, but Okayama was the first. And to kind of entice rich Japanese businessmen to invest in the track, they had old English racing drivers drive them around the track at high speed, and I think a Honda NSX. And because they did that, they got the rights to pick what turn they wanted to be named after. So Hobbs turn number 9, named after the great David Hobbs, who I grew up listening, commentating Formula One. Of course, he had his own very successful career. Williams, turn number 2, the Moss S of turn 3. A little bit of odd history surrounding this rather unique racetrack that also hosted Formula One on 2 separate occasions in 1994 and 1995. It was never called the Japanese Grand Prix, though, because Suzuka was still on the calendar. At that point in time, it was called the Pacific Grand Prix. So there's your little jib-jab about racing history here on today's broadcast on SMB.
Yeah, that's some pretty good history there for sure. And it is, a lot of these tracks these days are becoming sort of country club adjacent sort of tracks and stuff as well. VIR, thinking of one of them kind of in North America, kind of started that trend a little bit, I think. And it does seem to be growing. I actually saw on YouTube recently a track that was purpose built just for that. And you can go there. It's basically a destination. You go rent it out for the weekend, and there's a racetrack near your hotel and your hot tub and a car, and you just go do that for the weekend with your buddies. And you have to be very, very rich. I believe it was in Japan as well, but what a cool idea. As we are about to get started here, we can get to our starting grid now, and we will do that momentarily.
Yeah, not the biggest grid that we've seen here at Okayama, and we do have a somewhat lengthy short pace lap here at this track as they line up right before the hairpin of turn number 5. So I think we can take a little bit more time than usual to kind of go through all this. So let's do that. Alan DeGassis will start this race from the pole position, both in the Masters category and overall. That's the first racer thus far this season to start from the overall pole as a non-Spec 1 racer. If anyone was going to do it, it's going to be Alan DeGassis. He's been very quick throughout this season. Felix Samoes, who looks to try and be on track for a championship here in this season. He's slotted in second. Guido Marzuki now going to have that pole position streak snapped here today. He's going to start in third. Alongside him will be the return of Tor Tolo. Tor grew up in New England here in the U.S., lives in the UK, also lived in Japan and has a Japanese flag next to him. So this is the first of about 17 different hometown races that he's got on iRacing nowadays. Darmay Toomey, a new driver from Ireland, is going to be starting this race in the number 13 car in 5th, alongside Englishman Andy Middleton. It's going to be Chris Montgomery starting in 7th, alongside series admin Jim Brewster in 8th. Lars Tyhouse is sponsored today's broadcast, starting from the Spec 2 pole in 9th, and rounding out our top 10 will be Michelle Lynn.
Yeah, and then after that in 11th, we have Scott Russell from Garden State Racing Team. Joshua Justice, real-life spec racer driver, is going to be in 12th place. In 13th place, we have Stephen Westcott. In 14th, Stephen E. Tucker. Daniel Salmon, Zippy on the mic. In 15th, haven't seen him for a while. Brian Hansen, Spicy Racing Team in 16th. In 17th, we have Russell Telker from Mom's Basement Racing. Nick Tullo, the other Tullo from United Kingdom here. In 18th, Angel Soto, another, I believe we've had him before, but he is back. Angel Soto in 19th from Costa Rica. Brett Thompson in 20th place. In 21st, we have Weekend Warrior royalty himself, Stevie Ray from Slow Motion Racing, and Jason Grider in 22nd place will round out our field today.
And Angel Soto is actually off the back of a Spec 2 win last time out at Alton Park, so look at him to maybe impress. A little bit farther behind from where he started in that race, though, so let's see what he can do as that pace car now made the turn to come down pit lane, about to get the 11th round of the season, the penultimate race of Season 4 of 2025 for the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Been a fantastic season, been a fantastic year. Let's have a fantastic race as a green flag flies, and the drivers are on their way, and we are racing here at Okayama. That is a fantastic jump from Alan DeGassis. Is going to pull away from everybody as they head their way downtown now into turn number 1 as he leads. Nearly had some 3 wide battling right behind us. Look at Tortello really cutting some shapes early. He tries to jump his way up into second, and I don't believe he got it done. Goxamo still holding on to that second place spot. Ryan Hansen runs into some difficulties a little bit farther behind, but DeGassis over Samoas, over Tullo as they head their way into turn number 5.
Yeah, pretty clean right away there. Definitely pretty aggressive from Tor, as we can see here. We have Felix Samoes on the outside having a look, maybe getting a little bit hung out to dry here. This is the second drafting zone on the track. It's always a little bit spicy going into this next corner, as you can just take so much speed on entry into it. It kind of begs you to go for a pass, and I believe this is going to be a little spicy here. We definitely have a lot of cars in a small piece of track. Tor's going to look to the outside in the grass. That is never going to work, and we are going to sort it out so far here. Guido pulling up about 4th place so far, and Alan DeGassis is going to come out in front on that one, so really good defense from him.
Yeah, so strong defensive move as they headed their way down the back straightaway into the hairpin for the very first time. DeGassis still leads them as they head their way off into the final few corners in a couple of moments' time. Do want to reiterate something said in the YouTube chat. Want to give 2 happy birthday wishes, belated happy birthday wishes to both Michelle Lynn and Dan Szynski, who celebrated birthdays yesterday. Actually, funny story about all of that. Michelle was spending her birthday at a record shop in the city of Philadelphia, and it's actually not in the city of Philadelphia, although it is about 15 minutes away from my house, so I may have to go there myself. So either way, as I plan some trips out into the county to go away from my broadcasting bunker where I spend 98% of my life, Alan DeGassis is still leading this race over Tortello and Felix Simoes. They are really getting out to a gap up towards the front with the top drivers trying to break away. Tortello looking for the move around the outside as they head their way off through turn number 1. Got to hold on to the inside now into turn 2. Will he be able to make it work? He will, as Felix Simoes nearly followed in suit.
Yeah, he definitely opened the door for Felix there. Thought a little bit better of it, I think, at the moment, just not to get mixed up in that quite yet. It was going to be a slow move, I think, if he did. So we are still formation flying here in many ways. You got another 2-wide battle going on just behind. I believe that's Jim Brewster and Lars are going at it here as well. Jim Brewster's going to win out on that one for the time being as we hit this back straight again for the second time here. Watching everybody just kind of draft as this front pack is going to be pretty spicy for most of the race here by the looks, Ron. We're not going 3 wide. They're not going 4 wide. They're kind of showing some restraint here, but definitely fighting for position up in the front in that top 4.
And here at Okayama, there's not really too much of an opportunity for the gaps to grow. I mean, we can see that right now. The biggest gap that we've got in this field, I think that's Stephen Westcott, who's gotten struck by some kind of falling anvil. He's slotted in 22nd, 39, nearly 40 seconds back now of Nick Tullo slotted in 21st. But excluding that, some of the biggest gaps we have are a little bit farther behind. As look at that, they're going 3 wide as they headed their way off into that was the 8th turn that they're heading their way through with Scott Russell, Daniel Salmon. I believe that is also Angel Soto involved in that fight as they headed their way off through there. Now look at Russ Telker in that slow motion racing car. He's going to try and risk it. He may go for a move here soon. Love to see the slow motion racing logo all over that. It's actually the Mom's Basement Racing entry, as they're quite nice. That is the counter to my broadcasting bunker comment that I made a few moments ago, as here we go, Tortello still holding on to that race lead as Joshua Justice sets a quick time a little bit farther in the back.
Yep, still holding on to it out front here. Alan DeGassis also holding on to the back of Tor. Tor going to try to pull away now for sure. And the smart thing you could do, I think, if you were in second place is just try to hold on to Tor here till the end and then get by him. We know that if you have Tor behind you on the last lap, he's probably going to be in front of you by the finish line. So it might be a good idea to just kind of stay in this position here, try to keep up pace with them, try to keep those competitors off of you, and then be there on that last lap to try to make it happen when it counts. And that seems to be the way to get it done. That's certainly how Tor has gotten many of his wins, as Alan DeGassis is going to pull up to the inside here and have a look. It's another way to get it done, of course. You do need to leapfrog each other a little bit to kind of keep away sometimes from the drivers behind you. You just have to use that car. And if, unfortunately, you get caught up fighting each other too much, you just lose time and start moving backwards. And we can see that starting to happen now. They are squabbling for position a little bit. And that, pack of four or five cars is now turned into 8 or 9 and maybe even 10. And it's going to get bigger and longer the more that happens. So you really need to keep that in the back of your mind there. You're making your day harder for yourself if you fight your competitor too hard.
Yeah, you gotta be methodical running these Formula V races. Doesn't matter what the track is, you gotta think a couple of steps ahead. It's like a big game of chess, and maybe that explains why I'm so bad in these Formula Vs, considering that I've never really given too much of a thought about playing chess myself. But you gotta try and think a couple of steps ahead of all of your competitors, which can work out many different ways for many different drivers. We see, especially in the other Sunday series and the Weekend Warriors, when we have pit stops involved in those Formula Ford and Spec Racer Ford races, the different mindsets and different attitudes that everybody usually has when it comes to the strategy. You got the same thing going on here in this series. You don't have to worry about the drivers coming down pit lane, having to take fuel and figure out how much they need to make it to the very end. These racers still have to think on their toes out there on the racetrack, know when to push, when to go for the moves. You can't just hack at it 100% of the time. The one thing a Formula V race needs more than anything is a little bit of patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe not so much as these cars more than many other cars for sure. I'd say patience is a good thing to have kind of all the time. Mid-race, early race is a good thing, but, a lot more in the Vs or the SRFs or maybe a Radical or something like that, where the draft is just so powerful. And if you try to use that draft every single lap and just hack and hack and hack at the bone with your competitors, all it really does is drive you backwards in the pack and make your day really hard. So, what you learn, after years of racing, in the WW, what has taught, or what I have been taught basically, is to have patience. Like you're saying, you need to have patience. You need to know when to strike. You need to know when not to strike, maybe, is the more important thing as well. And just be out there and drive your race at the pace you can drive it, not get caught up with too many other people, and then generally you're going to get a good result. I do apologize here for something going on with the internet connection here this morning, not working out so well. I'm not sure if that's translating out to you guys in broadcast land there, but on my end, I'm getting some pauses here and there, and I'm not really much I can do about it at the moment, so I do apologize if that's translating.
Yeah, I think unfortunately there may be some maple syrup pouring into your Wi-Fi modem there. The hamster on a wheel, the maple syrup in there is causing it to freeze, so maybe that's what's going on.
It is
there.
Getting cold here. It's starting to.
That could very well do. Funnily enough, kind of on the sub, I feel like I have no room to judge because it's actually above freezing where I am in the city of Philadelphia. This has been the first time in quite some time where I've actually been a little bit chilly around the house, which is saying something, because I've been described by many people in my life as being a human polar bear. That's not because I can smell blood from 10 miles away. It's just because of the fact that I'm a large fat man who can tolerate cold quite well. Felix Samoza and Guido Marzucchi look like they briefly swapped spots for a third as this battle with Brett Thompson really starting to get dicey. Angel Soto, Brett Thompson, and Russ Telker, 3 Spec 2 racers, all battling it out. Now, the Spec 2 category, I always love keeping tabs on because it feels like there's a different feel to it than the Spec 1 and the Masters classes, where they may be battling for some of the spots a little bit farther behind, but the racing is always so intense in those fights. You can never really pin down who's going to win at any single week. Guys, look at this side-by-side between Tortolo and Felix Samoza. Felix trying to jump into the race lead. This is the battle between 2 of your championship contenders here in this season. Felix, your reigning champion. Tortolo won the 3 previous titles here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. As contact made between Guido. Up in the air they all go, and that's a big stack them up as they head their way into 8.
I know, I was just about to mention, you got to look out for these guys behind because they are jockeying around for position and getting pretty spicy back there, and that's maybe where the race is. And then right when I'm just thinking it, boom, the nose cone of his car was up in the air where it's not supposed to be. So that's unfortunate. I believe that was contact with Alan DeGassis, if I'm not mistaken. We will have to go back and have a look at that. We will catch up. I believe we lost Stephen Westcott, and we may have even lost Daniel Salmon and Stephen E. Tucker here as well. So we'll get back to those as soon as we can here, dealing with a little bit of technical issues here this morning as Felix Samoza is going to look up the inside here. Guido getting a perfect view of that and somehow able to keep going after that incident. He did not take any damage by the looks of it. So, yeah, Guido with the squeaky clean car.
Yeah, I think there's got to be something a little bit sour with that number 19 machine, though, because that was a rather significant clunk. Let's see what happened as they headed their way down this small little flat-out blast into 8. There was a contact. The gases kind of showed Guido the door as he pulled out there. I'll have to take a look at another replay. I was kind of more focused on seeing the cars involved. Unfortunately for Toomey, the newcomer, he got collected in that incident as well. I'll have to see it maybe from Guido's perspective, see what it looked like from his side of things as that contact was made. But for now, we've still got the battling going on up in the front, albeit less cars than we had before, but still some very strong competitors. Felix Samoza, Tortolo, Guido Marzucchi.
Another one.
Made. That's going to send another one up in the air, and that's Tor.
That was Tor and Joshua Justice, I believe, as well. So we just lost 2 more drivers there in what would be probably maybe a lapse time. Unfortunately, we've lost about 3 or 4 drivers now. We'll go back and have a quick look at that one. Not so great. Getting caught up, sort of like we were saying, kind of tripping over each other, and a very uncharacteristic incident from Tortolo here. Looks like maybe he won't finish the race today, which is just bizarre.
It's not very often that we see Tortolo run into some trouble. It all started with contact with Guido. I think he maybe overshot a little bit, and then you could see that car hopping up in the air. It looked like there was some space between those cars when the contact was registered by iRacing. Pop Tor up into the air. Joshua Justice really nothing that he could do but pile into that incident as well. Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what the deal is, but in all of the drama and the chaos, Felix Simoes is going to come out of it smelling like a bed of roses because he's now holding on to a 1.3 second gap. Oh, that is such a shame for Josh Justice. That was a matter of inches, millimeters even, between him getting away with that incident with maybe a little bit of grass on his tires or getting caught up in it. Unfortunately, it was the former. Unfortunately for him, it was the latter instead of the former.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's when you're puckered. That was a pucker factor of at least 7 or 8 there for sure, where you're kind of coming out the side, or you're trying to go wide, and I'm gonna make it, because you see that car, spinning out, and unfortunately clipped that rear tire and took him out, and that's really unfortunate for him for sure. But Guido now going to be up into second place. Felix Simoes is pretty much running away with it at the moment, unless they can start working together. And then just behind them, it looks like Jim Brewster and Michelle Lynn kind of fighting here for position as well. So, some people's misfortune is other people's gain here, as it is in a race. And Lars actually having a look behind there as well, fighting, I believe that's with Andy Middleton.
And now the series of events that have transpired here in the past few moments of this race worked very well for Felix Simoes for a handful of reasons. Not only is he now holding on to a 2-second gap, which is nearly insurmountable in these Formula Vs, and a little bit odd to see here at Okayama, but not the first time that we've seen. It was about a year ago when we saw Jason Green won a race here at Okayama, but I think it was like 7 seconds. At the very end, he pulled a huge margin as we got to the end of that race. Felix holding on to a 2.1 second gap. That is rather substantial over Guido Marzucchi in second. And that also works out beautifully for him in the championship fight. Now, because of how packed the pre-race shows usually are here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, we weren't able to go through the championship points, but Felix is looking very good entering this race, and now that his main championship rival of Tortolo has been sent all the way back to the tail end of the top 10, that's going to make it seem even better. I think it's all coming up good for Felix.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's going to be able to kind of run away with this one here, as the gap seems to kind of continuing to grow here as well. Montgomery and Guido Marzucchi just behind here, formation flying again side by side. If they continue to fight like that, it basically becomes impossible to catch the driver in front of you, because you're just moving slower. If they work together a little bit, maybe get some slingshot happening, they may be able to catch Felix, as we're blinking in and out here again. I am not sure what is going on with the connection here today. I do apologize for that, but we're going to try to do our best and just work around it here for you.
Yeah, as the saying goes in our business, the show must go on, and these drivers are giving us one heck of a show here, even though Felix is just driving away. It's not anything that Felix is doing that's totally spectacular. The fact that Chris Montgomery and Guido Marzucchi continue to fight it out for those final 2 podium spots is just allowing Felix to irk out that gap more and more and more and more. Trying to go side by side in a Formula V race and also catch up a gap, you'd be better off trying to pick up antimatter with chopsticks. You just can't do it. Angel Soto and Tortolo had a battle as they headed their way up through turn number 9. That looks like it's come the way of Tolo, as he's holding on to P9 at the moment in that number 90 car, as Lars Tiehaus right in front, as the gaps are closing up a little bit in this train of cars. You got Alan DeGassis right up at the front end of it. He's side by side with Andy Middleton, in fact, as they head their way downtown into turn number 1. You got Middleton, Brewster, and Michelle Lynn battling a contact made with Russ Tucker and Angel Soto. That could have ended in tears even more than it did. That was contact. Thankfully, it was just nose to gearbox. It was not wheel to wheel. Otherwise, we probably would have seen another car pick up air.
Yeah, I think, that's one of those situations. We have a new driver. Russell's been around for a little while. I think they just read each other wrong on that one. So you may be a little bit early braking, a little bit late braking. That's what's going to happen. You kind of need to get to know your competitors around you and how they drive and so on. And I think that kind of caught Russell out. So hopefully there's no hard feelings there between the two, and they can continue racing each other here. Hopefully in the next race we will see Angel back, and I'm sure that was just a mistake from Russell. We know that he races clean. He's not trying to hit people, as we have a just mass of Formula Vs trying to figure out where they're going to position themselves for the corner here. And, that's a little bit, it's scary to watch, because you can tell they're a little indecisive about where to put that car, and that's exactly when you clip a tire and end up upside down.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point that you bring up, Josh. If you have a little bit of indecisiveness in these Formula Vs, that's when it bites, and bites hard. Side-by-side racing now with Alan DeGassis and Jim Brewster. That's going to be a squabble for your lead in the Masters category. And looks like it's going to be going well for Jim at the current moment. Still a lot of racing left to go, but we are past the halfway mark of this 11th round of the season. If you are enjoying this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, how about you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. Still got a whole weekend full of Weekend Warriors and XSLR action tomorrow here on SMB. For now, though, we've got these Formula Vs and these drivers continue to duke it out. Here we go, 2x2 as they head their way downtown into turn number 1. It's DeGassis and Brewster side by side. It's Tortolo, Michelle Lynn side by side. Looks like Tor was able to get that move done rather convincingly. He's now going to try and apply some pressure to Alan DeGassis as they go side by side all through 2.
Yeah, it's just quite the group of cars. Tor kind of stuck in it here, trying to figure his way out of it. I think he's probably going to make a pounce here when he can and see if he can't take the lead of it and lead this pack. Maybe might be the smart way to go, too. If I was in that pack, I'd be kind of looking at Tor going, okay, maybe I'll let him by and attach to the back of him here and see if I can't use him to kind of drag me to glory. But we'll see exactly how it goes. They are not going to give it up. Alan DeGassis and Jim Brewster are two drivers that are not going to give up a place to basically anyone. They're going to make sure that they race you hard often, and that's definitely their MO for sure, as they're racing nice and hard and clean here so far. Very close axle to axle contact there between Tor and DeGassis. Are flirting with danger, and that was never going to work out, was it, Ron? Going through there 3 wide is a scary proposition on a good day, and unfortunately Tor is going to lose out on that one.
Tortolo, such a shame for him. He's been kicked in the shins once more, and it just looked like, I mean, that was 3 wide racing that never fly. There are very few spots of this racetrack where you can realistically go 3 wide. And that is not one of them, as we continue to have some technical issues here on Slow Motion Broadcast, and we'll call this radio style. However, as we head our way around this racetrack, still Lars Tiehaus running in P6, your current leader in the Spec 2 category. Things have gone down in this race. It's allowed him to pull out that gap, as Alan DeGassis going to be struggling to try and get back to form. That's 3 wide racing going on as they headed their way into turn number 1. It's still side by side between Michelle Lynn and Lars Tiehaus. It's a battle for the spot inside of the top 5, and looks like Michelle Lynn is able to hold on to that at the current moment, despite the fact that we had a Masters racer start this race from the overall pole. We currently have no Masters or Spec 2 racers sitting inside of the podium spots, as it is comprised entirely of Spec 1 competitors, with Felix Simoes over Chris Montgomery, over Guido Marzucchi. That's how it stands at the current moment here in this field. Still not a lot of racing action left to go, though, as we get into the final 10 minutes. Getting into crunch time, these racers know that, and they're going to start to try and risk it for the biscuit, as I think we may have some 3 wide battling may go on here with Tiehaus. Andy Middleton looking to get involved in this battle here, as Alan DeGassis is involved in it too. Here we go. That's Alan DeGassis jumping his way up into P5, as things were not looking ideal for him. They're still not looking fantastic after the drama just a few moments ago, but P5 at the moment, that's still not the result that he may have had in mind after starting this race from the overall pole, but could have been a heck of a lot worse for him.
We are back now live. We should be a little smoother now as well. I was having some internet problems there, but it looks like we have we've coughed out the problem, and we should be nice and smooth from here on out. So I missed pretty much a lot we were saying there, unfortunately, Ron, because I'm too busy doing technical things here. But
don't worry.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, well, maybe we'll jump back to Brent Thompson here. So this is actually where Joshua Justice has ended up here, trying to do a bit of a recovery drive from 10th place at the moment here. Getting Daniel Salmon actually coming into the pit, which is a little bit interesting. I'm not sure if maybe he got damage or something there, but he's coming into the pit here, maybe calling it a day.
Yeah, unfortunate for Salmon was seeing some stuff maybe in the chat of him potentially having a squabble out there on the road. Just saw a single question mark posted in the iRacing chat, which is rather ominous. If you send somebody just a single question mark, that is not going to be the best message to see in the world. If I ever get a message like that from one of my friends, I'm going to assume that I've said something very stupid, which, hey, kind of par for the course with me, frankly. But Guido and Chris Montgomery still continue to battle for second, as a battle for some of the spots inside of the top 10 is still going on. This was a 4-car battle. It's now a 3-car battle, and they're going to be packed in like sardines with 3 wide racing heading down the backstretch into 5. That's Andy Middleton there on the inside line. He's going to jump out into that spot. Michelle Lynn holding on to P7 currently, with Lars Tyhouse slotted in 8th. The sponsor of today's broadcast here on SMB, currently running in 8th. And you know, actually, I should have saved this when we had the small little technical difficulties a bit earlier on. Was seeing in the YouTube chat, Dan Szynski picking up the commentator's power of being able to assign commentators' jinxes to people in the YouTube chat. So Dan, if you would like a job here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, why not write to either Josh or I? We can get you on board, because you have that power to give a commentator's jinx to whoever you may want. It is a great power, and with great power comes great tomfoolery.
It is definitely one of the requirements here at Slow Motion Broadcasting that you have the ability to psych drivers out with your mind, and that's definitely part of the job. You have to be able to do it, or unfortunately we can't have you on board. And we're pretty good at it here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, as well as we see Andy Middleton in the HP car here. I'm just noticing. I don't think I've seen a bottle of HP in a decade. But it's actually reminding me of the steak sauce here. Doing a pretty good job so far. Up into 6th place. Alan DeGassis just in front of him on the recovery drive. Jim Brewster, the other Masters driver, leading Alan DeGassis. He kind of won out in that fight, at least for now. Montgomery, Guido Marzucci, and then Felix Samoa all the way out there leading the race. As we see, it looks like Tortello there actually kind of on the comeback drive here as well.
Even though it was contact involving Tor and Michelle Lynn not too long ago, he's been able to close up that gap. That man is an alien behind the wheel of a race car. He is so quick in that number 90 machine, a real-life Formula V competitor, and some more opportunities to race all around the world. Fantastic racer, and nearly just right there in the back, a shot between Brett Thompson and Josh Justice. That could have been an airplane accident very easily. Tortello just jumped his way up into 6th, side-by-side between Justice and Thompson. He overshoots it a little bit. That's going to be more contact as they head their way out of 5 into 6th. That's going to be Josh Justice holding on to that final spot inside the top 10. Certainly had to work for it, though, as he had to break the elbows out. You got to do that from time to time here in these Formula Vs. Maybe get a little bit physical, and these cars are rather goofily constructed in the sense that you can make wheel-to-side pod contact without even touching a wheel.
Yeah, we've seen it happen. I believe it was last weekend, even Guido there, and I forget who it was now, actually made basically side pod to axle contact. Not something you really want to flirt with too often, because if you move back or forward about a foot, you end up contacting a wheel and, well, going airborne. And that's never going to be fun in one of these for sure. In real life, I'd imagine, man, oh man, would it ever hurt in one of these. There does not look like a ton of amenities in there, and a lot of metal to kind of rack your body off of when you get into an accident. So I don't think that would be a good one, but we're kind of single filed out a little bit. Closest battle on the track here was with Joshua Justice, Brian Hansen, as we see Joshua Justice off track.
It's been a terrible race for many a racer, and I think Josh Justice just had the final nail be put in the coffin. Let's take a look at this as they headed their way into turn number 1. There was a contact. Huge airborne moment from Beth Thompson. That battle was just getting so physical for so long. Something was going to boil over eventually. Let's take a look at this here. Josh kind of moving over a little bit there, but Brett Thompson not really giving the room either. Takes 2 to tango. I think if I had to assign blame, I'd probably put a bit more on Thompson in that 888 machine than Justice in the 099. But either way you slice it, doesn't matter who you say is at fault for that. The both of them have meatball flags. The cars are ready for the scrap heap, but that's a huge shot once you land back down on the ground. I had some wild rides back in my own karting days, and actually got out of the karting just down to back pain and all that stuff. The Formula Vs may have a lot more suspension than a kart that has none, but you still don't have a lot of suspension to work with. And if that was a real-life accident, you'd have a lot of pain. And as I said a few moments ago, the back pain, not ideal. Trust me, that's what got me into broadcasting. That's what's kept me inside. And now, as a result of living a sedentary lifestyle for the past couple of years, I'm now allergic to all plant life as well as most types of rock.
Yeah, you don't want to, just going back to that Brett Thompson incident there, It's just encroaching on your fellow driver a little bit there too much, you know, and you want to open up that corner as much as possible. We've all, you know, done something very similar to that, but, you know, unfortunately, just a little bit too much there. Unneeded amount of encroaching on your competitor's line there to the point where you're kind of trying to just sort of ruin his corner. And well, that's what happens when you do something like that. You should really be focusing on your own corner a little bit more, and then things like that won't happen sometimes. But we have all been there trying to open the corner as wide as possible and get that entry, and maybe just a little bit too far, unfortunately, there on Josh Justice, and that's going to end his race. As Stevie Ray and Stephen E. Tucker here are one of our new competitors, having a pretty good battle here for 12th and 13th place. Like you were saying earlier, you know, you don't have to be in first to be having fun out there.
Yeah, you can have a lot of fun in any sort of spot. If you got a battle, if you got a driver to go side by side with, you're going to have a good time. I think Stevie Ray and Stephen Tucker are going to have a good battle as we get to the end of this race. Both Masters racers behind the wheel of the 911 and 930 cars respectively, running in 12th and 13th, battling to see who's going to finish in that unlucky number spot as we get into the final 3 minutes of this race. Felix Samoza is just driven away with a 4-second gap to himself and Guido Marzucchi. I would usually say, oh, that gap is plateauing. He's not pulling away. A 4-second gap in a Formula V that is a vast yawning chasm. I think Felix can probably afford to take it easy. He doesn't need to push that car too hard. And this has been a fantastic season for Felix. Now, as much as we were thinking that it was going to be a titanic battle between himself and Tor really hasn't shown up to too many races throughout this season. The races that he has shown up at, he has won. I'm thinking now this is probably one of the first times in quite some time that Tor has shown up to a Formula V race and is not going to get the W. Of course, a lot of extenuating circumstances. He's been backwards more often than not in this race, and not really down to his own fault as well, just incidents going on around him that took him out of contention. But Felix has been able to cope with the pressure brilliantly. As much as we were focusing on Tor and him maybe returning to championship form, there's a lot of props that needs to be given to Felix because he has proved throughout this season why he has that number 1 on his car.
Yeah, absolutely. Felix, you know, in pretty much in most pieces of machinery is very proficient and clean. You know, he always races nice and clean and competitive and stuff as well. So it's really awesome to see that. And you're right, a 4.5 second gap almost now is a huge gap in the V's. And if anything, that just shows again, really keeping your eyes forward, not worrying so much about maybe what you can do to slow your competitor down or how you can, you know, this and that or the other, but just how you're going to move forward and how you're going to drive your race. And he's kind of showing that in spades here right now as well, not getting caught up with other people, not trying to throw too much defense, and just getting her done, you know. And really, it's a game of errors out there today. If Guido had not made an error early, he'd probably be a little closer, that sort of thing, right? There would be a pack with him, but he hasn't made any errors and others have, and that's kind of why he is where he is. And you know, that's kind of how Felix drives, honestly. I've not usually fast enough to be anywhere around Felix, but the few times that I have, it's been a good experience.
Yeah, we have got some top talent here in this series. Just looking through Felix, I first got acclimatized to commentating races with him on the Radical SR10 side of things. Had no idea that he had been with the Weekend Warriors for well longer than I'd been on iRacing. He celebrated his 5-year anniversary in the Weekend Warriors world just a couple of seasons ago. He's been around the block before in Weekend Warriors competition, was usually just racing in the Spec Racer Fords, but he made his debut in the Formula V's a little bit earlier on this year. Walked away with the Spec 1 championship last season, and if anything is to go by based off the result here today and throughout this season, Felix may be on track to go back-to-back here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. We have one more lap of racing action for Felix to try and seal the deal on yet another win here in the second to last round of the championship. Guido Marzucchi, meanwhile, still has Chris Montgomery all around him. It's the number 19 and 33 currently battling for P2. Let's see if we're going to see a battle here. Will Chris Montgomery go for the move? He's closing up that gap, reeling him in. He pulls to the outside. It's going to be a side-by-side drag race as they head their way down the backstretch into turn number 5. Chris Montgomery kind of crowds him a little bit down on the inside. Contact made. They touch wheels. That's going to be Guido still holding on to P2. He gave it his all, but I think Montgomery may have crowded him too much there and set himself up poorly. Got to arc it off through the turns in these Formula V's, keep that momentum rolling, and he really didn't allow himself any opportunity to do that as it looks like this battle for second has just about been settled as Montgomery goes super deep on the braking zone as they head their way off into turn number 9 for the final time. Felix Samoa's going to cap off a brilliant day behind the wheel, 4.5 seconds farther up the road. He's on track for another victory, on track for a title too if things go like this in 1 week's time for the season finale. Jason Grider has his own battle with Brian Hansen for that final spot inside the top 10, but here's Felix Samoa's easy race winner today here at Okayama in comfortable fashion. Guido Marzuki got to come home yet again in P2 this season. Chris Montgomery will complete your podium. Jim Brewster has got to come across the line in 4th to win it in the Masters category, about 1.6 seconds in front of his Masters rival, Alan Degassis. We have a photo finish going on here between Michelle Lynn, Lars Tyhouse, and Andy Middleton coming across the line. Michelle finishes in 7th. Lars Tyhouse wins it in Spec 2, your sponsor today's show, finishing in 8th. Here's another photo finish. It's Grider and Hansen. They come across the line with Grider getting the edge at there, finishing in top 10. Lars Tyhouse, your winner in Spec 2, finishing 8th in this race. But what, you know, despite the fact we didn't really see the battling up at the front after the drama a bit earlier on, that was still a pretty fun race.
Yeah, we had some good mid-pack fighting there near the end as well. Usually it's kind of right up at the front of the pack, right till the very end there. We don't get a good shot, kind of what's going on, sort of mid and backpack there. But we did have some pretty good racing mid-pack, and out front, Felix Samoa is just running away with it. Some recovery drives from some of our other drivers there, as well as some good racing from some of our new drivers out there as well. You know, in the top 15 or so here. And then, of course, we have a few people who kind of fell to the wayside. Unfortunately, Joshua Justice not having some good luck today, as he's going to bring it across the line here. Probably want to forget this one for today and come back strong for the final round.
Yeah, that final round of this season will be coming to you here on Slow Motion Broadcasting in less than 1 week's time now at Brands Hatch. That's a pretty fitting track to end off this season. We are going to have a showdown come time for that. For now, though, we get ready for the jumping shenanigans. Felix Samoa is running it down the back straightaway. Look at that pack of Formula V's smoke in the air already as they head their way up through the gears. Josh, let's see some Formula V's get turned into unrecognizable piles of metal pulp.
It's about to happen. Guido's going to be fair. Oh, wow. Look at that rebound on that one. Well, that's one of the better ones we've had in a little while, isn't it, Ron? Oh, Jason Grider comes in like some sort of spaceship re-entering Earth there on the NASA car. That was a big hit for Jason Grider. Always fun to see them burn it down at the end, and this is one of the better ones we've seen in a little while.
I would start singing Rocket Man by Elton John, but I don't want this broadcast to get copyright struck. Oh, that's Steven Tucker coming in for the kill.
Perfect.
My, oh my, oh my. That was a pretty big hit. Actually, was that Steven Tucker coming in for that?
I don't know if it was. He picked up pretty quick here.
Thompson, who drove into all that. I think Steven Tucker was already around. He's upside down, kicking the smoke up in the air. This was a wild shot, though. He nearly took out the cameraman, Jason Grider, just firing it off into the runoff area. Oh my goodness, that I'm trying to think of how high up in the air he was. I mean, these Formula V cars are microscopic, so it may look like they're 50,000 feet above the ground, when in fact they're probably about 2 because these cars are so tiny. But that was some good air time. I think Jason Grider probably had the most hang time of anybody.
Yeah, I think that was probably the best one for sure. We'll get one more angle of it here, see if we can't get a better shot of just how high up in the air he actually did go, coming in at maximum speed, and he clipped the wall. That's what did it. He's up in the air, that weird gyro effect happening again. Always fun to see them burn it down at the end here, wreck some race cars for fun. Can't do it in real life, it costs you a lot of money, but you certainly can do it here in iRacing. You know, the cars might not be real, but the racing and the camaraderie certainly is.
The sound that is made at the end of these races is... I gotta say, it's a good thing that we broadcast iRacing events and not events on Project Cars, which I guess is kind of topical to mention considering Project Motor Racing came out. And but Project Cars, the original one, I remember playing that game and being absolutely befuddled by some of the sounds that the cars made when it crashed. It was basically, imagine throwing an entire bucket full of random utensils, glasses, and just regular kitchenwares into a sink. That's basically what it sounds like whenever you hit the wall in that game. But regardless, it always kind of befuddles me just seeing some of the antics that these drivers get up to at the very end. It's fantastic to see, if not maybe a little bit concerning. If that wasn't real life, we'd probably have to read out some eulogies. But let's take a look at the results here at the end of round number 11 of this Formula V Weekend Warrior season before I get too transfixed on Jason Grider nearly striking the moon. Felix Samoes grabs the victory here today. 4.1 seconds is the gap at the line between himself and Guido Marzucchi. If I had to guess, that's probably the biggest gap that we've seen in a Formula V Weekend Warriors race in quite some time. It's usually photo finishes as the order of operations here. Those are your podium finishers, with Jim Brewster winning it in the Masters category in 4th. Alan Degassis finishes right behind him, P5, after starting from the overall pole. Cortalo is going to finish this race in 6th, with Michelle Lynn in 7th. Lars Tyhouse, your Spec 2 winner and sponsor of today's show, finishing this race in 8th, with Andy Middleton and Jason Grider completing your top 10.
Yeah, they have Brian Hansen in 11th, Stephen E. Tucker in 12th, Stevie Ray in 13th place. It's a pretty good battle between those two. Daniel Salmon in 14th. Darmid Toomey, did I get that right? Let me try that again. Darmid Toomey. It's a pretty awesome name, from Apex Twin Racing in 14th place. Stephen Westcott in 16th. Brent Thompson in 17th. Joshua Justice will be in 18th place. In 19th, Russell Telker. A little bit of falling anvils for him at Mom's Basement Racing today. Angel Soto in 20th, Nick Tullo in 21st, and Scott Russell will be 22nd place, 15 laps down.
Yeah, unfortunately for the driver from New Jersey, some troubles earlier on in this race going to take him out of contention, but those are your results for round number 11 of this Formula V Weekend Warrior season. If you have enjoyed this show, happen to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on the racing action. Hit the like button on the stream as well so you can let us know that you enjoyed it as well. However, looks like we've got some drivers want to have a chat with us. I think we'll break it up into threes with the 4 drivers up there. So I think we'll get started by having a chat. I think we'll save Felix for a couple of moments. We'll have a chat with Lars Tyhouse, our Spec 2 winner and sponsor of the show. Lars, thank you for joining us here in the booth, and thank you for sponsoring this broadcast. Before we ask you about the race, I want to ask you about your dog, Fern. That is a cute dog.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I heard that I had to provide an icon. It's like, what can I do? What can I do? So
excellent. We love it.
Yeah, that's absolutely I gotta say, I don't want to discredit any of the other fantastic sponsors that we have here on Slow Motion Broadcasting or here in the Weekend Warriors. That's one of the best logos I've seen in quite some time.
It's the best
Lars,
one, yeah.
I want to ask you about this race, because this was a pretty wild one here at Okayama, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a lot going on around us. Had to live for some incidents I had a couple of times, but we made it through and skated. And I think I got 1X, but it was after the finish line, and I think that's my first time happening that too. So I was just hanging back there with Michelle, and I knew that I had quite some distance to the other Spec 2, so I was happy to just take the Spec 2 win without taking too much risk.
Yeah, I think all throughout that race, it looked like you were balancing a lot of stuff. Started a little bit, just started in the midst of all of the chaos and pandemonium here. I want to ask you about this track. Even though it was one that everybody has experience driving on iRacing, can be a bit of the opposite effect where everybody feels a little bit too confident running here and can have a little bit of chaos and craziness go on. So I want to ask you about what it was like running this car here at Okayama.
So Okayama actually, when I was contacting Michelle to sponsor a race, I had the option between this one and I think one from like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, hey, Okayama is actually a sweet memory for me because I got my first win on iRacing on it with the Formula FF1600. So to me, it's sweet memories. I always love this track. There's the tricky, hairpins on the ladder part of the track that's always hard for me. Especially in the V, because I'm not too experienced in the V, honestly. Usually drive the Ray, but being here and then with this great pack of drivers was really fun.
Yeah, it was certainly a heck of a lot of fun from our perspective here in the broadcast booth as well. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. On track for another Spec 2 win. I want to ask you, though, next time out here in this series to round off the season, we're going to be running at Brands Hatch in just 1 week's time. What are your thoughts heading to that track?
Oh, I love Brands Hatch. We actually did a fun race last Monday on it with Race and NXTs, which is not a great combo, honestly. But yeah, very fun track with the hills to account for, and some sweeping corners. Yeah, we'll try to make it out next weekend.
That was a FF1600 cars, and I still refuse to call it the NXTs. The Indy Lights machinery is what I'm used to calling it. But that sounds like a fun combination, albeit I take enjoyment out of driving Formula Vs and Indy cars on an oval together. So maybe I'm just sick in the head. But Lars, thank you for joining us here in the booth. And as always, we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go.
Yeah, thanks for broadcasting, obviously, and thanks for the Weekend Warriors for hosting all of these amazing races. I try to jump in whenever I can. It's not too often, but it's always fun and great to have a cool train of cars driving together. So thank you all.
Yeah, and thank you as well for joining us here in the booth and sponsoring today's show, Lars. Well done on the Spec 2 win, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Brands Hatch in 1 week's time.
Thank you. See you guys.
And that right there was Lars Tiehaus, who now knows that I take a lot of pleasure driving Formula Vs and Indy cars. It's at Michigan where I do that combination, which may not be the best idea, but if you want to see some Michigan action, happy to take a look at the last YouTube short posted here on the SMB channel. But with that terrible plug out of the way, Josh, I will let you have dibs on our race winner today, that being Felix Samoes, who won in rather comfortable fashion.
Yeah, let's have a talk with Felix. Felix, another race win today around Okayama. We were mentioning kind of in the run-up that, we're all fairly familiar with this place. We've probably all been here a few times, and we know it fairly well. And it looked like today you sort of ran a clinic. Got about 4 or 5 second lead from everybody. How'd you see it out there?
Hi, guys. The beginning was a bit chaotic, even before the incident. People very aggressive. So I kind of played the game. I made an aggressive move to try to get in front because I wanted to get some laps in the lead. And then that unfortunate incident with Thor, and I haven't watched the replay. I don't know exactly what happened there. And I had a gap of around 1 second. I pushed as hard as I could. I think I did at the time the fastest lap of the race. Then I started gaining an advantage, but Guido and Chris picked up the pace, so the gap kind of stayed stationary, so around the 4 seconds. So I tried to push as much as I could, keeping the focus, not pushing too much to not do mistakes, and try to get the extra bonus for 0 incidents, which I managed. And then, the last 3-4 laps, then I relaxed and took it easy. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, very nice being able to pick up those points for the 0x today as well. And you sort of nailed it there, I think, Felix, is, it's a game of errors out there a lot of the time in the Formula Vs. And you made no errors today, whereas the drivers behind you did have at least one kind of major error there. Getting caught up with Tor a little bit. I believe that was Guido and Tor making contact behind you, and that was an error, and you didn't make any, and that's sort of where the gap is. So that's what it's like around here a lot of the time, especially on these tracks where everybody knows them so well. It's going to come down to kind of who makes an error, who makes the bigger error. And I believe we're headed out to Brands Hatch for the next race. Not a super dissimilar track than this one. They're not totally the same by any means, but is that one of your favorite tracks as well?
Actually, no, Brands Hatch. I like the track, but I normally don't do very well there. Let's see how it goes. I like this one, actually. Okayama is one of my favorite tracks, especially in these slower cars. I think this track fits very well in this kind of cars. Let's see how Brands Hatch goes. Normally, I don't do very well there, but the thing is, I think the championship is... I think I'm pretty safe, so I don't need to stress out too much. I just need to not do many mistakes.
Not to make exactly. I think you're probably okay in any way there, maybe, but it should be it should be an interesting race for sure. And you just kind of got to bring it across the line. Brands Hatch does offer some kind of unique challenges there. Some of the corners have always caught me out as well. Maybe it's just because I don't drive there as often, but it is a really unique, very hustly, pretty tight racetrack that, again, breeds mistakes pretty easily. So that will be an interesting one here to finish off our season. But before we let you go, is there anybody out there you'd like to thank?
Yeah, as usual, everybody taking place in these races, making it such fun event, and the people running the league, making sure everything runs smoothly. You guys in the booth, and a huge shout out to Lars to sponsor this this week's race.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words there, and we we really enjoy having you guys out there racing. And one more round left in the season here. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we do. Oh.
And that right there was Felix Samoas, your race winner here today. And we do have 2 more drivers up there. I don't think we'll be able to have a chat with both. I want to have a chat actually with Jason Grider, who finished this race in the top 10. It's been a very long time since we had a chat with JG1. So let's drag him into the broadcast booth. Jason, welcome in. It's a top 10 finish for you, and you nearly took out our camera with some of the crashing shenanigans at the end of this race. So how was it out there here at Okayama?
It was wild, to be perfectly honest. I didn't qualify, and so I started dead last on the field pretty much. Maybe Stevie was behind me. And yeah, it was just kind of bedlam for a little bit. And I just got lucky and navigated my way through it.
Yeah, it looked like madness at many points in time out there on the racetrack. I want to ask you about your thoughts driving around here at Okayama. I mentioned this in the interview with Lars a few moments ago. I think it really stands true. This track is one that everybody drives on extensively in their iRacing career, which can lead to some drivers maybe feeling a bit too confident running here.
100%. And it's something I always kind of have to fight here. I'm never fast, but sometimes I'll get a little aggressive with the braking points and stuff and give myself an accident or create problems for somebody else. Luckily today I did not do that. Actually finished the race with a 0x, so I was pretty happy with that too.
Nice. I think that's
there you go. That's a pretty big achievement considering how hectic this race was, and that is some points on offer as well for that. So well done for getting through this race clean and walking away with the top 10, Jason. Want to ask you about the next race of the season, though, as we swap out the twisty Japanese roads of Okayama for the twisty British roads of Brands Hatch.
I love Brands Hatch. It's one, so flippin' historical, as these epic Formula One races from the past. And your races really well, pretty much even in the SRF, or sorry, excuse me, in the Formula V. It's a little bit different with the Formula V compared to something that has a little bit of power, but I mean, it races really well as long as it's the full length. I'm pretty sure it's not the Indy layout that we're doing. Although the Indy layout would work pretty good for the Formula V. But yeah, I always love going to Brands Hatch and get to experience that track.
Yeah, and looking forward to seeing what kind of racing we have there. And I think that's actually a good suggestion, running on the Indy layout. That would be pretty fun. I think that track does not get the love that I think it really deserves. The only cars you really see running on there are the Formula Fords, which is pretty cool, but that special event is always quite hectic as well, as somebody who got the opportunity to cover it this year. But Jason, well, I'll let you give any thanks or shout-outs before we let you go and celebrate this clean race in the top 10.
Right off the bat, I need to thank my family who are waiting in the living room for me to get in, for we could have a little talk about some things. And I'm going to thank them a lot for being patient while I got through this. Also, shout out to Michelle and Dull Down Racing for all the support and help and setups, and you guys for broadcasting this every week and broadcasting the other races I'm in, like XSLR, and just always enjoyable to go back and listen to the broadcast after the fact. Just all my other Weekend Warrior racers. Always love running with these guys, and it's always a good experience, even when it's not necessarily good for some people every week. But we always smile at each other at the end, and always say good job and get through that process every week. Always a good race.
Yeah, it's always our honor covering the Weekend Warriors. It's a treat for me at the end of a week to return to the Weekend Warriors, and hopefully we're going to see you out there on the racetrack, either for the Formula Fords, the Spec Racer Fords, XSLR, maybe even all three tomorrow. But Jason, thank you for joining us in the booth. Well done on the top 10. Looking forward to seeing you out there at Brands Hatch in 1 week's time.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
And that right there was Jason Grider, our P10 finisher here in this race. Josh, we're expecting some hecticness and expecting some drama at Okayama, and we most certainly got here in the second to last round of this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. One more round left, and yeah, we got some pretty good action here at Okayama. If you're staying on the run-up, everybody knows this place pretty well, so you're going to get out there and get some pretty good racing, and that's what we saw here today. Felix Samo is kind of running away with it, but you know, a little bit of pitfalls for some of the back of the pack, as we were saying on the run-up, but really looking forward to Brands Hatch to finish out our season here. Really spectacular track. Sparks will definitely fly there.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun race to look forward to in 1 week's time, but we got some more action between now and then here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. The Formula Fords are going to be running at Circuit de Lebanon, the track that played host to not the last round of the Formula V Weekend Warriors, because we've just had that here today at Okayama, but the round before, that'll be at Lebanon tomorrow for the FFs. Spec Racer Fords, meanwhile, going to be running at Jerez. That's going to be some good action there. XSLR going to be running at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park on Sunday, November the 30th at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we kick off the month of December, the final month of 2025, with some Sim Racers Group F4 action, and the season finale for that series running at Barber Motorsports Park. The Extreme Motorsports Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge going to be here at Okayama this upcoming Wednesday, with SRG F3 going to be running on the track at the same time as well. Okayama proving to be a bit of a popular pick as we get into the final races of this season. Then next week, of course, we are going to be running at Brands Hatch for the Formula Vs, and the Formula Fords going to round off their 2025 in style with a race at Watkins Glen on the Cup layout. So a lot of action to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you one heck of a reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the action as we get to the end of season 4 of 2025. But as for this broadcast here for round number 11 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at Okayama, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Joshua Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's show, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.